Well, Reaperman here, with a little different kind of video today. I guess I'll start at the beginning. Right about 2014, early 2014, there was a little competition for Atari 800, where we were allowed to use varying different types of Atari Basic to create a game, but the restriction was it had to only be 10 lines of code. So I'd never really done anything game-wise before then, so in the space of the competition, learned a few different types of Atari Basic simultaneously. They kind of built on each other, so I had to. Entered the competition and got third place in my class. And my class was classes were divided kind of into the people who used the native Atari editor, which was me, and people who used a different editor, which allowed them to throw just a few more characters per logical line on there. So I entered this game that you see over here on this screen into the competition, and I got the third place. I did concentrate a little bit on making this fun. It's a game that I actually quite enjoy. I call it Dodge Racer, and I called it that before I realized there was already a game for the system named Dodge Racer. But if you have something like the Atari 800 where there's tens of thousands of games, you're going to be struggling a bit to find the new name there. But anyway, the goal of maybe not this session, but overall, is for me to upgrade this game so it has more levels, more detailed levels, maybe put in some trees or buildings, maybe get more colorful. I'm just going to try and upgrade this game to be the best it can be. And I think that's totally doable. Other things I want to accomplish, I want to move the start finish line from here to right about here. I want to start always in the middle of the bottom and go around the track, various different types of track. And I also want to have, with the multiple levels, a high score for each of them that adds up to a total high score. So this whole thing would be like kind of an overall score challenge or an individual score challenge. So maybe I'll go into a little bit how scoring works in the game. Well, maybe I should just play the game first and just kind of show what it's all about. So this is the game in its 10-line format. Just get the old Xbox controller, hit fire to start here. And I am the little green spot moving around and running into orange things. So the goal of it is to just dodge enough orange things to accumulate a score. And for some reason, I'm doing absolutely terribly at this. Let me get there we go. Get the volume down so it's not blowing you out on the stream, I suppose. Gosh, maybe I should be doing this with a wired controller, because this is possibly a little too laggy to get the kind of pixel perfect. There we go, I completed a lap. Completing a lap is kind of important in this game, and it used to be I got good enough to where I could do 3 or 4 laps. Yeah, I am definitely having some controller lag issues on this, but that's okay, because this game's really designed to be played on real hardware. I'm just developing it in an emulator. And that's a perfectly acceptable use of emulator as far as I'm concerned. Jeez, D-pad. Perform. Gotta get 2 fingers on this thing now, huh? Ugh. Wonder if it's low on batteries, maybe. Let me just get one with a couple of laps, and then we can have a look at the mechanics just a little bit harder here. Yeah, there's absolutely nothing to stop a player from going backwards in this game. So I guess that's probably good enough. Down at the bottom, we can see my score for the last run and the overall high score. The player starts out down here, and they have to complete a lap. They can either go backwards or forwards. There's nothing really stopping them either way. However, there is another little counter over here somewhere to make sure they do definitely pick a direction. I guess theoretically you can go backwards down to right about here and then come back. But that's starting to be a dangerous operation, and I do plan to keep that at some point in the future, maybe put in 2 checkpoints, one over here somewhere and one over here. They may have to vary a little by level because the shape of the track's gonna vary. This game actually has 2 different tracks inside it. I was already wanting to make it a multi-track game. So part of the reason the compromise with the start-finish line being over there versus where you actually start is because the second level, which you have to achieve 2,000 points to see it, is actually 2 circles, and they actually cross, so it's kind of a figure 8, and you can kind of go around those and come back. And every time you cross this line here, it actually checks for this y coordinate out to about here or so. It was enough to get into the middle of the circle when it was the 2 big circles. But anyway, a little bit about scoring. You start here, you roll around the track, say this direction, because that's the direction you start out going. And every once in a while, it will drop a little orange thing on the ground somewhere on the track. What it does is it picks a random XY coordinate, checks to see if that coordinate is black. It'll only drop the orange thing on the black. And then it'll, if it does get a black, it'll pop it there. That's why I don't know exactly how often it pops down. And it'll give you 1 point as it pops that new obstacle down. Then, if you cross the finish line, you will get 100 points, and then all of your spots are then worth 2. And it goes around like that, and the next time you do a lap, it's worth 200 points. And that multiplier goes up, too. It goes up exponentially. In fact, the 3rd lap is worth 400, I believe, and then they're all worth 4 points. I don't think it goes 100, 200, 300. I believe it doubles. I believe it was slightly easier for me to do it that way. Kind of Pac-Man style scoring. But anyway, that in a nutshell is the game. There's 2 ways to look at how this game works. One is that you're maybe driving around a little RC track, and there's a bunch of assholes around the side, and they're chucking beer cans and stuff onto the track. I prefer to think of it that way. The other way you could think of it is you're driving a real car around a racetrack, and unfortunately above you a very large jetliner is disintegrating and dropping people and luggage all over the track. That's perhaps a little scarier way to view it there, if you feel like doing that. But anyway, I've got a few more ideas for track type scenery, maybe some ponds. I've got an idea for how to do swimming pool and tire barriers. Also, I want to have a menu system that will allow you to go between detailed and non-detailed tracks. For example, what's shown on the screen would be considered a non-detailed track. And the reason for that is there's just not enough obstacles around it. Oh, am I losing frames here? Yeah, I'm probably losing frames here. And the reason for that is you'll see if you start the game and you die, you got to wait for the entire track to redraw. And the reason it's redrawing is to clear the obstacles that have been dropped. I guess technically I don't have to redraw the entire track. With the luxury of extra lines, I might just be able to redraw the black. That might actually be something that I want to do. We'll see how I'm going to actually accomplish this here in a bit. I can do a lot more with my extra lines of code. Either way, I do want to have a high and a low detail, because at some point you're going to have to wait to redraw, and there's going to be a whole lot of trees and buildings, I was hoping, on these tracks, and curves, which take quite a lot more time to draw. Well, the curves are just going to have to draw anyway because they're track related. I want the high detail and low detail to actually play the same. And I also want, on the high detail, I want to stop that crunching sound effect because I think I get quite enough of the crunching sound effect drawing the low detail track. I don't think I need to also hear that on the high detail track. So I guess we'll have a look at the source code, and the easiest way to do that, I suppose, figure out where my break key is on this wireless keyboard. That is not it. You the pause break? Yes, you're the pause break. So I think it's 0 to go back. Okay, good. Alright, so here's the code as it stands. Now these individual letter numbers here, 7, 8, 9, 0, these are actually the lines themselves. There's actually only 10 physical lines, and I'm using these go-tos to do looping just because they're very conservative in space. The downside to them is when you do a go-to, you have to do a whole physical line. Actually, hold on. Let me bring up... okay, so this is going to be a little easier to read here. So now you can see that there are indeed 10 lines down here, and I use a lot of go-tos to do the looping and to kind of break out of loops as well. So go-tos they're kind of considered bad programming, and there's a good reason for it. At first I thought it was just to be kind of an asshole when your programming teacher taught you it, but no, there's a good reason. So this thing points to a physical line, and unfortunately when it's time to start moving things around, like what I'm going to do first off is expand each of these lines out, and instead of using logical separators, because right here this colon actually separates a logical line. So normally these would all be on separate lines. But as I expand this out, it's going to absolutely ruin all of my go-tos. So for a good portion of the rebuild process here, just the expanding it out portion, the game's just going to be broken. Maybe I'll go a little bit over how it's doing it here. And let's see here. So in the beginning we've got, it looks like we've got some basic variables. It's setting up D for direction. So this game remembers which way you are going frame to frame. And the reason it does that is so you don't have to keep holding the arrow keys. And that keeps it feeling a bit like a racing game. Whereas if I didn't have it remember the direction you were going, you would have to hold that direction. The game would get very, very easy at that point. Looks like color variable for crash locator and for junk placement. So somewhere in here there is a crash locator, and somewhere in here there is a... actually, W is just the crash locator. So I'm not quite sure what that is. Let's see here. Let's do a search for F. Why next? Oh, geez. There's going to be some ifs in there. Crash locator. Oh, Rand 70. Okay, so that's junk placement. E equals random 70. Oh, I didn't define those, did I? Okay, so this is random X value, random Y value. Okay. Crash locator. Moving on, it looks like F frame delay. Oh. Okay, I'm not sure. Oh, why was I searching for F before instead of W? I think the frame delay's actually been removed from this. Welcome to level 2, W. Okay, locate X, Y, W. If W equals 1, okay. I'm definitely going to have to sort this code out. It's been 3 years since I've looked at it, so it might not be the most entertaining watching me read and try and remember how this darn thing works. And BASIC is supposed to be rather human readable, but not when you crunch it down into 10 physical lines of code your entire game, because really, like, this is usually a line, and this is usually a line, and my variables do not have descriptive names at all because they can only be one character, and they're all down here. Let's see. Okay, I've got that stuff in there. Okay, so G says the name of the game, and later on it gets loaded with game over, because it only says the name of the game at the beginning before the first match. I'm kind of curious to see how I'm doing all the draws for the levels, and I know that's kind of set up in here, so this is looks like I'm setting up a lot of other stuff here. It's in a graphics mode already before line 1 though, right? So it sets all this stuff up, sets up dodge racer, press fire. So so it hasn't even it hasn't displayed G. Okay. Okay, so this whole thing's in graphics mode 7. It starts up right off the bat with drawing. So it is drawing lines to X, Y coordinates. So this is it building up the track in color 1. I think I'm rolling with very much stock colors. And the reason for that, again, is the limitation, the code limitation. Fortunately, that won't be a problem as we go forward here. That's also, in this game, I don't know if you've noticed it, but, whoops. Okay, there we go. Where was I even going here? As I run this thing and completely forget what I was doing. Great. Anyway, so right here it's drawing lines in various colors. Luckily, I won't have to worry about the color limitation or the line limitation, so I can switch around a lot of my colors. Yeah, it's just drawing with color 1 and color 2. Also, this game doesn't feature any sprites. I'm not sure if that's something, how I'm going to keep it, but there was no room to do any sprites. So what I'm actually doing here is I'm redrawing the background on every frame. Well, not really every frame. So every time it draws a spot, it draws in real time on the background, and it just hangs there. And every time my vehicle moves, what happens is I will increment it whichever direction it's going, and then I will draw a black square behind it to compensate, or a road-colored square. It doesn't have to be black. I'm going to start switching these around here when I expand it out. So as you see it move, you can kind of see it do it a little bit even in the emulator, but you'll see this kind of width and flicker on it. That has to be the worst game of this ever. It popped that right in front of me. Great. So you can kind of see it moving a little in width as it stutters along, and that's just it. That's just it kind of hiccuping as it moves, as it draws the new green square in and clears out the old clears the old green square with a black square. So that means it has to remember the previous XY coordinates. Also, when you smack into a wall, I can't remember if I still left that in here, but when you smack into a wall, it goes back to the old XY coordinates. It reverts them. You know what? I bet there's no need for me to do that. I probably cut that out in optimization, because that would be good if I was actually going to have the walls not be fatal, to just be able to run into the wall and have it stop and slide along the wall. But that's not how that happened. So it would be nice to get this thing up to sprites, but I definitely want to get more detail into the background here. I also haven't decided what the fire button is going to do actually during the game itself. So I thought maybe holding down the fire button might make me move faster, but I'm probably going to need sprites for that. The other thing I could do is I could have it where you tap the fire button and you perform a jump, making you temporarily invulnerable, and then that might have some kind of a cooldown on it, and that might be useful for getting you out of sticky situations, prolonging the game a bit. But the game actually has a good feel to it. It doesn't last too long, doesn't last too short. I'm just doing absolutely awful with it up here on the projector. Something here is just kind of off. It's normally a very responsive game, but most of my testing has actually been, well, no, most of my testing's been in the emulator. Some of my testing has been on real hardware. And I actually kind of designed this game to run for the PAL region. The competition was in PAL, so I wanted to make sure it was not on the slow side. So I just leaned a little to the fast side on the whole game. Let's see here. It's becoming very apparent that it has been just a little bit too long on this code here. So I'm sitting in here. So at some point it is going to, where are my go-tos? Go to 4. Is that if there's a trigger? If trigger 0, okay, if trigger's pressed. This is, okay, it plays a sound. Oh, sound 0 is probably the engine rumble. 062. Oh, I'm going to have to look at sound effects. I have a little thing for that. I cannot remember for the life of me how sound effects work. So I need to find my pause break. And graphic 0. And we will go. So on this disk, I still have, fortunately, still have some of the code that I was using to figure stuff out with this. So, for example, Joystick Painter, this is the actual painting program, moving it down around the screen, drawing lines. It's actually what became the game. Originally, I was doing a game called Grue Killer. So if you remember Zork, the Grue's in it. It's a text adventure. This is actually a text-based game up at the Grue Killer. Sounds here was for me experimenting around with the sound effects. I think I'd like to load that, actually. So how the command structure works, so we've got, for example, directory, and then inside quotes you've got D1 for disk 1, and then start for list everything. So we do that basically with the load. We do the load, and in quotes D1 colon .bas. Close my quote up, it'll load that thing. We can list it, we can see kind of what I was going for there. Looks like there's some things with list to get the early stuff, and to also get it to where you have to hit a space key for more or something. Wow, it's obvious that that week I spent doing this. Yeah, I was up a little more up on it than I am now. So interestingly, the week that I programmed this thing was actually a Mardi Gras week. That's why I had the time off. I'm down here in New Orleans, and today's a kind of a hurricane day, so another kind of free day off to rainy day around the house. Let's see how this thing works. Use keys 1 to 4 to adjust. Spacebar to stop sound, and a key to start sound, key to quit. Oh. Oh. Oh, that's volume there at the end. Oh, this is quite pleasant. Alright, let's do a spacebar to quit here. Looks like 062.2. Let's just do... Yep, 062.2 is definitely the sound that I picked for kind of an engine sound. Wonder what other sounds I picked. I know I picked one when you go around, it beeps as you pass the start line. There's also a little sound it plays as it places junk, and then there's a really obnoxious sound it plays when you die. Let's see. Stop that thing. Okay, so as the second column increases, pitch decreases. Good to know. Right now I'm working on this third. It's amazing going through these numbers. You hear so many familiar sounds from so many Atari games. This sounds maybe like something I heard in Talladega. Very similar to the engine sound there. And then I think we almost had with 60 is somewhere right around here is the sound that pole position makes when the car explodes. Nice. Anyway, let us pause break. Oh. Colon. Alright, so this is Joystick Painter. This is very similar to the game in its movement, except I don't auto move. Also, the fire button changes color, if I recall. Yes. Oh, it's all coming back. Ooh, missed that one. Yep, so we only have 4 colors. We've got black and then the 3 here, so these are the default colors. Which I guess kind of makes sense why I'm using them in the game, because it would take a small amount of code to change them. And I wasn't quite willing to spend that. Oh, that's quite the modern art piece there. So I actually at one point had one of these that was in graphics mode 7 that spit out an XY coordinate, and I could use it to help kind of gauge and draw out where my track was going to be. I may end up using graph paper or something like that. The problem is I can't quite remember the resolution offhand. It's 320 by 200 or 320 by 240 or something like that. I will... Oh, it might not be that, actually. Wow, I even gave it a sound effect. What do you know? So, boop. What's this thing look like? Wow, it looks like I actually spent more time putting my name on it than anything else. Great. 670 is apparently me turning the sound off. That shouldn't have worked, but it did. Okay. So, load. 1. Oh. So this actually was my first entry in the competition, and the first game I ever made. Let's just have a look at it here. List. This is also, I don't think this is quite 10 lines. Actually, there's... Okay, so I did change the colors for this one, because it's a text game, so I might as well, right? So it's kind of a little RPG battle system where you're fighting the Grus from Zork, which are, of course, a terrifying creature that they describe in absolutely no detail because it only attacks you in the pitch black. So I guess we attack. Oh, I came out on the losing side of that one. Forget exactly how many hit points a Gru has. Just got a critical hit there. Screen went red, played the sound effect. Spectacular special effects, huh? I think it plays one when I kill him, too. No, because I've just defeated the Gru. Alright, it's pitch black. You're likely to be eaten by a Gru. I think I just heal. And heal does a random number of heal. If I recall, there's a way to get potions. I defeated the Gru. Ooh. Okay, I've only got 1 potion left. Now I've got no potions left. And I think I just pretty much bash on the attack button. Nope, I died. Final score 400, so I beat 4 groups. Unfortunately, now I'm still in crazy text color here. See how this is going over here at the dashboard. Okay, we will, actually I think I'm going to stop this thing here and kind of verse myself up a little better on Turbo Basic, because apparently I have slipped terribly as far as the basic goes. So I'm going to have to look at that. And then list, oh, can't do that. D1 star. Then I think I'm going to get some quick ideas together for things that I can draw. I wonder what circles is. I should remember what circles is. List. Huh. Well, that's a thing I made. Probably shouldn't have made it do black circles on the black background. So this is, oh, this is me experimenting with random numbers. So it picks a random color and slots that into the circle. Oh, that's clever. I can probably cannibalize all of that. This is definitely all coming back to me here. Oh, that's just so short too. Perfect. Random X position, random Y position, random radius, and random color 4. So it picks a color 0 through 3, and then it slots in. Yeah. Picks a random color, sets the color to that, then it draws a circle of random XY position and radius. Oh, no. Okay, sorry. It picks 3 random numbers. And here's where it actually draws the circle with said random numbers. And then we have a go-to down to 15. Okay. I'm going to have to really update my looping technology in these. I suppose this is fine for what it is. But yeah, so apparently for X, 161, so I bet this is somewhere about the resolution of this graphics mode 7. I bet when I look it up, I'm going to see that it's 161 by 97 or something very close to that. And for radius, I didn't want anything over 45. Let's have a look at this thing again. So 45's got to be pretty close to these big guys up here. I guess any larger than that, it just wouldn't be manageable. The black circles do kind of bug me. Yeah, so it seems like the rain just got a little bit worse in this hurricane area here. I wonder how bad we are. It's coming. There's me. Anyway, I think I'm going to sign off here. Brush up a little on my file things, because it occurs to me I don't even know how to save on this anymore. I guess it's probably just save. Hold on. Gosh, I don't even know how to... Hold on. Save. Is that less than 8? Perfect. Huh. Oh. Okay, did I save the circles too? I did, perfect. As I hit the up arrow to correct my mistake. EP1. Yes. So the interesting thing about this Turbo Basic is you can kind of make your own abbreviations. So you can save one, and as long as over here you have enough characters to make it unique. Yeah, I just lied about that. Yeah, apparently I just lied about that. Huh. That's really weird because most of the time you can use, in these commands here, you can use either graphics 7 plus 16, or you can just drop it down to enough characters to keep it unique, like GR, 7 plus 16. It's kind of odd that doesn't work with save. I bet if I knew any more about Atari. Yeah, I mean, I've only been doing this since I was 3. You'd think I'd remember a little bit about it, right? Nah, not at all, actually. Whoops. Anyway, I think I should end this thing and get some, well, before the power cuts out and my projector dies. Really hates doing that. And maybe kind of, get some hunkering down going on before this storm comes and wipes me out.